Okay, let's talk more about how those either lucky in love or seeking revenge are spending their money this Valentine's Day. And look, Buck Wise is there, and he's in his love lair. I see all those hearts going up behind you. Nice addition, Buck. Good stuff.
Thank you, man. Love is in the air, Sean. It is still alive. Love is still alive. Even though in the U.S., over 50% of marriages, they say, are starting to fall apart, we're seeing 56% of those couples are still participating in Valentine's Day.
Okay, let me get the business out of the way here. You're the CEO of #ClosingDay Agency. Thanks again for coming on. Let's talk a bit about that. 56%, so more than half of the people in the U.S. are going to celebrate. And as we heard, it's not going to be cheap either. If you have flowers, if you go out to dinner, but it's just the cost of being in love, right?
Yeah, that is true. And we're seeing that a lot of Gen Zers really are getting more into the experiences, much less about the goods. But I mean, even in your own studies and research, we're seeing that a lot of those goods are costing more and more money. And in years past, candy and flowers kind of took the cake. But the question is, what's it going to be? Is it going to be candy or is it going to be jewelry? And this year, jewelry wins $7 billion in jewelry. So somebody somewhere is still spending the money despite all the economic challenges.
Yeah, and we can't talk about this holiday without talking about the I word, inflation. What is inflation doing right now, and how are people dealing with that as they shower gifts upon their loved ones?
Yeah, you know, I actually saw this study yesterday. 32% of people are shifting what they normally would do for Valentine's Day because of inflation. So you definitely do see a dynamic shift in the way people are thinking about it. And I think that 32% is probably the couple that is looking to do something like hiking, something nature, something less involved with money. But you know, you're also going to see tariffs take a little bit of a hit on some goods. Some are suspecting apparel, and when I say apparel, Sean, you can assume.
Okay, I'll let your mind wander.
You know what that's going to be, right? Apparel for Valentine's Day. The other tariff you're going to see is on jewelry. So there is kind of a double-edged sword with the fact that most people are spending on jewelry. They're saying it could be a 2% hike on jewelry imports, which is billions of dollars of jewelry coming in from other countries. So I think in the next few years, we're actually going to see some shifts in what the #1 leader is where people spend their money.
You know, I've talked to people from other nations, and it seems like this is a huge U.S. holiday, but not so much in other nations. Is that true?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that sentiment anywhere outside of the States. And in fact, you are seeing a little bit of those non-Valentine supporters saying that love should be every day and don't buy in. It's a Hallmark holiday. We're not sure that we want to support big corporations. But you know what? At the end of the day, why wouldn't you want to take just a second to show love and appreciation for somebody that you respect? And who cares if this day is the day that you do it? I say you go for it.
You know, and then also a lot of things that we buy here for our loved ones come from other nations. In Colombia, Mexico, for example, they produce some wonderful flowers, some wonderful chocolates.
True.
So the prices have doubled since 2024. How does that impact the climate?
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, Sean. I don't know if you saw this stat, but cacao actually went up 30%.
Jeez.
From 2024, last year, went up 30%. So that is that candy reduction that we're seeing this year. So people are not willing to spend as much for something sweet when they could have something like an experience, or like you heard earlier in your report, dining out is something that's more experiential for people versus a piece of sugar that costs twice as much.
Okay, you know, we've talked about tariffs until I'm kind of blue in the face. But are tariffs having an impact at all at this point?
They aren't right now, but we suspect to see that definitely this year and next year. It's just one of those things that we're going to have to deal with as soon as they hit.
Okay, tell me about e-commerce versus going to the brick and mortar stores.
Yeah, they're saying about 20% of customers are going to be going on e-com and buying. And of that buying, once again, it's just because it's the behemoth for Valentine's Day. A lot of that buying power on e-com is jewelry. And so we're seeing a lot of that come in from overseas. But, you know, I think more than anything, we're seeing people that are looking for not just deals. You know, that's what e-com really is about, is how can you get the cheapest thing. It's really about quality over quantity this Valentine's Day.
Buck, real quickly, what's the craziest thing you've heard people give for Valentine's Day? Anything come to mind?
It's so funny because your report mentioned it earlier. The Dallas Zoo is allowing you to buy a cockroach, name it after your ex, and feed it to animals at the zoo. And I love that story. It's so good.
Okay, so tell me a bit about the background real quickly. How long did it take you to come up with this gem?
With what?
These hearts behind you. I like that. That's a nice addition.
It's just a big 85-inch TV, and then you just search YouTube for hearts background, and they just start floating behind you. I'm very festive in my office.